and impartially. For your benefit, I will continue my practice to vote only to make or break a tie. All town employees, elected and appointed officials must disclose such when they initially speak and whether or not they are speaking in an official capacity. We can assume that those here on the stage are speaking in an official capacity unless otherwise stated, and when they do, they will speak from the floor. Speaking of the stage, here again displayed is a chart of those joining me to help conduct town meeting. They will introduce themselves if and when they have a need to speak or otherwise contribute to the meeting. I'm grateful to the citizen advocates, Attorney John Fooey, who will be available to assist citizens with town meeting and problems, and he will act as deputy moderator should that be necessary. If you have a need, please call out to any of the tellers or go to the back table at the middle of the room, and folks will be able to help you. In continuing our innovations of past years, we allow those who are observing the meeting live on TV or streaming on the internet, which I'm guessing outnumbers the number of people in this room tonight anyway, to allow them to email in and text questions into the meeting. If you are watching and wish to do so, you may participate by just going to the town's website, putting in townofnorthandover.com or text to 978-620-5450. That address and those numbers will crawl along the bottom of the screen for those of you who happen to be watching live broadcast or on live stream. Helping us with monitoring compliance for the remote questions opportunity are the League of Women Voted members Carolyn Cole, Heather McNeil, and Keith Connors, along with Max Butterbrot and Caitlin Parks. Thank you to all. They are sitting at the table in the back of the central section. I've stated in the past, as you know, that I believe the town meeting has two constituencies. Those of us here in the room at this moment, and everyone else affected by the judgments that we collectively make in this, our legislative body. You are making consequential decisions as you act as that legislative body for the nearly 30,000 other of your neighbors in our town. This year, I'm testing the notion of remote voting in preparation for a true future virtual town meeting. Though results will not count, all are welcome to express themselves in this straw poll survey right through the end of this meeting. You in the room are welcome to do so this evening, so you can actually vote twice, but only one of them will count. The website is displayed on the screen, and or you can just Google the town of North Andover and click on the banner about town meeting and be connected to the straw poll survey and the remote question program. But all power is in this room, for you alone have the ability to deliberate, make motions, and vote. Questions and discussion in this room take precedence. Those in the room need not and cannot utilize the remote question option. All amendments to articles must be in writing and presented to the moderator. Please again go back to the back center of the room where the remote question team will help so that can be readily identified and displayed on the screen. Throughout this meeting, we will be combining the consideration of several articles so that common discussion can take place that can better and most appropriately help inform the meeting. I will disclose those opportunities for associated issues when and if that opportunity presents itself. I now recognize the Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Regina Keene.
Mr. Moderator, Regina Keene, 412 Massachusetts Avenue, Chairwoman of the Board of Selectmen. I move that this meeting dispense with the reading of the warrant and with the reading of the constable's return of service of that warrant. I further move that the moderator not be required to read articles of the warrant verbatim, but be allowed to refer to articles by number and by subject matter or as displayed on the screen, and further that amendments need not be read but are to be voted upon as displayed or otherwise provided in print to the voters in attendance.
We have a motion. Is the motion seconded? Second. All those in favor of the any discussion first? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It is a unanimous vote. Articles 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be considered by a single vote in our consent agenda. For the last 7 years, we've put these non-controversial housekeeping articles together. Unless I hear objection, we're going to take them as one motion. I hear no objection. May I have a motion for the consent? Excuse me. I'll go back to it. Yeah. I've apparently skipped over something. Made my first mistake of the night. So get it out of the way early. Let's deal with this.
Move to adopt Articles 2, 3, 4, and 5 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
Second. The motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it is a unanimous vote. We'll go back to Article 1 now. Another housekeeping effort, report of special committees. Is there?
Move to adopt Article 1 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
Actually, I think that the motion more appropriately is to withdraw the article as there are no
Apologies.
no reports.
Move to withdraw Article 1.
The motion is made to withdraw. Is there any objection? No objection. The article is withdrawn. We will now go to Article 6.
I will move to adopt Article 6 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second? I think we could use an explainer about what this is.
Yes, this amendment is just to make some changes to the fines for animal control law to be compliant with state regulations.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion carries by majority vote. We now move into our play within a play. We're now going to move into a special town meeting. We have a little bit of housekeeping in order to do that. I recognize the chair of the board.
Mr. Moderator, I move to adjourn the 2019 annual town meeting until the special town meeting of May 14th, 2019 is dissolved.
Do I hear a second? No discussion necessary. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is a unanimous vote. We now need a startup motion for our special town meeting.
Mr. Moderator, Regina Keene, 412 Massachusetts Avenue, Chairwoman of the Board of Selectmen. I move that this meeting dispense with the reading of the warrant and with the reading of the constable's return of service of that warrant. I further move that the moderator not be required to read articles of the warrant verbatim, but be allowed to refer to articles by number and by subject matter or as displayed on the screen, and further that the amendments need not be read but are to be voted upon as displayed or otherwise provided in print to the voters in attendance.
A motion is made. There is a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is unanimous. We go to Article 1 of Special Town Meeting. I recognize the chair of the school committee.
Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Article 1 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
A motion is made. And do I hear a second? And seconded. Could we have a brief explanation, please?
This article transfers to the school department the reimbursement received by the town for the Medicare expenses paid by the school department in fiscal year 2019. Oh, I read the wrong one, didn't I? Sorry.
Do we all understand that, or are there any questions?
Yep, I read the wrong one.
Go ahead.
Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
The Special Education Stabilization Fund was established by vote of annual town meeting of 2015 to reserve funds in order to provide stability in the delivery of public education that could otherwise be adversely impacted by costs associated with special education, which were unforeseen at the time the annual fiscal appropriation for the school department was adopted by an annual town meeting. Unforeseen costs are those for which neither experience nor reasonable judgment nor planning could have anticipated. In accordance with the town's financial reserve policies, the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and the School Committee have all, by majority vote, affirmed the costs were unforeseen and paying said costs from the appropriated school department budget would adversely impact the delivery of education in North Andover.
Do we have a Board of Selectmen recommendation?
The Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action.
Do we have a Finance Committee recommendation?
Finance Committee recommends favorable action.
We have heard the recommendation of the School Committee as the motion maker. Do we have any discussion? A two-thirds vote is required. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I declare it a unanimous vote. Article 2. Holly?
I move to adopt Article 2 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
Is there a second to the motion? The motion is made and seconded. A brief explainer.
This article transfers to the school department the reimbursement received by the town for the Medicare expenses paid by the school department in fiscal year 2019.
Recommendation of the Board of Selectmen
Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action.
and the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends favorable action.
We've heard the obvious recommendation of the School Committee. Is there any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, this also requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I declare it a unanimous vote. Articles 3 and 4, we're going to discuss together, but vote on separately. And if should discussion be necessary, I'd like to hear a motion, please, on Article 3.
Move to adopt Article 3 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there an explainer?
Yes, Articles 3 and 4 are simply accounting mechanisms to establish the mechanism for us to receive the funds from the Columbia Gas settlement so that we can spend those funds on roadway improvements and property damage restoration.
We have a Board of Selectmen recommendation. Do we have a Finance Committee recommendation?
We do.
And it is?
Finance Committee recommends favorable action.
Thank you. Is there any discussion about either of these matters? But we'll vote on number 3 separately. Everyone understand what we're doing? Majority voters required then. All those in favor of the motion under Article 3 as made and displayed, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I declare it a unanimous vote. We'll now hear a motion on Article 4.
Move to adopt Article 4 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
Motion is made and seconded. We have a Board of Selectmen recommendation, a Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends favorable action.
Okay. May I presume no further discussion is necessary? All those in favor of the motion, then please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It is another unanimous vote. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I move that this 2019 special town meeting be dissolved and returned to the 2019 annual town meeting.
A motion is made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion to dissolve the meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It is a unanimous vote. We're now going to move back to regular town meeting, and we will discuss, if there is discussion, Article 7 and 8 together. I'll hear a motion first on Article 7. To the Board of Selectmen.
Move to withdraw Article 7.
A motion is made to withdraw. It is not generally subject to discussion, but for clarification benefit, is that the intent of the board for Article 8 as well?
Yes.
And might you explain?
Yes, please. After the closing of the warrant, the Historical Commission requested that the Board of Selectmen withdraw Article 8 from this town meeting in order to allow ample time for them to review the proposal and provide input. The Board of Selectmen agrees that more time for collaboration with all the relevant boards and the public is appropriate. In addition, we feel it is important that Article 8 be considered in conjunction with Article 7 because of the specific lot lines depicted in Article 7, which really are associated with what we were trying to do in Article 8. Therefore, we would like to withdraw both articles to be deliberated at the same time in the future.
So for those who are interested in deliberation, that will take place on June 18th in this
To be
room.
determined.
Excuse me?
It's to be determined what town meeting the articles will
Not
appear on.
determined as of this moment.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification. An article to withdraw is a privileged motion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I declare it a unanimous vote. May we have a similar motion?
Move to withdraw Article 8.
Motion is made. Second, please. Thank you very much. Need to hear it verbally. I don't see discussion not necessary. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It is a unanimous vote. We move now to Article 9. Excuse me. Thank you. Mr. Fooey, if you'd come to the back of the room. Thank you so much. Do I need to hold any part of the meeting? Okay, we'll move to Article 9. Do I have a motion for Article 9?
Move to adopt Article 9 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
A motion is made and seconded. An explainer, please.
Yes, this is just an increase in the charge for these copies due to the increased price of paper and printing associated with these vital records.
Maybe a little bit better than that.
We're required to use special safety paper to issue vital records.
Thank you.
And in order to be in compliance with those standards, to use that paper, there's an increased cost.
Do we have any discussion? No discussion. A majority vote is required. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Unanimous vote is offered. Article 10.
Move to adopt Article 10 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
Motion is made and seconded. May we have a bit of an explainer?
Yes, this is a housekeeping item. We are striking language that we are not able to do anyway legally because the hiring of police officers below the rank of chief follows civil service, so it's not something that we could do anyway, so it's a cleanup item.
Have we any discussion? Hearing none, this requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. I declare it a unanimous vote. Article 11.
Move to adopt Article 11 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. I believe we have a presentation on Article 11. Our interim town manager will be joining us at the podium to the right.
Thank you. I'd like to present the FY20 Capital Improvement Plan. Capital improvement is defined as a purchased asset such as fire truck or portable radios, improvements to physical assets, or renovations or construction to physical assets. A capital asset should be in excess of $25,000 and a useful life of it in excess of 5 years. Capital projects are found in many places within our budgets. For example, our annual budget, a 5-year capital plan, which is presented in front of you, individual articles, which could be within town meeting warrant, and Community Preservation Act. The capital improvement plan is started in September each year, and projects are submitted by the departments to the town manager for consideration, then are ranked using a specific criteria. All projects are funded using various funding sources, such as bonds, grants, operating revenues, free cash, or retained earnings. Our goal is to continue to maintain our debt service as a percentage of revenue to approximately 5% or less. We have 13 projects this year in the general fund, which total $4,668,230. This is all funded with grant funding of about $820,000. Reserves will fund $1 million of the capital project, and net borrowing for this year will be $2.7 million. The enterprise fund, one more. The enterprise funds, there are 7 projects totaling $1.2 million funded through retained earnings. The breakdown for the water is up on the screen, approximately 750,000. There's 2 projects in sewer enterprise and 1 in Stevens Estate. All of these are funded 100% through retained earnings, so there'll be no borrowing this year for the water and sewer in Stevens Estate for, I think it's the 3rd year in a row. Do I go one more pic? Nope.
Thank you. Have we any questions or discussion? Hearing no questions or discussion, a 2/3 vote is required. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. I declare it a unanimous vote. Congratulations on your first win at town meeting. Article 12. Have we a motion on Article 12?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I will read the motion. It is a lengthy motion, but I will read through it. I move to receive the report of the Community Preservation Committee and to raise, transfer, and/or appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, a sum of money to be spent under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee as shown in the list of approved projects in Article 12, and with regard to the appropriation of the $200,000 for the Glenny Woodlot project to authorize an expenditure to purchase of the fee or other interest in 9+ acres of land located in North Andover, Essex County, Mass., commonly known as 0 Dale Street and/or the parsonage lot, commonly identified as Assessor Parcel 104C-0018 in the town of North Andover, property records as submitted to the Community Preservation Committee, which expenditure shall not exceed $250,000 and which shall be contingent upon the receipt of gifts or other contributions received by the town for the acquisition of not less than $50,000, and to authorize expenses incidental and related thereto for purpose of the purchase of the parcel in fee or other interest, and that the town manager or conservation commission be authorized to file on behalf of the town any applications for funds in any way connected with the scope of acquisition of said parcel, including the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Local Acquisition for Natural Diversity Land Grant Program under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Let me save your voice.
Good.
It's displayed on the screen and
Oh, it's
everybody has
beautiful.
it
I
in
thought
front
I
of
had to
them.
read the whole thing.
So no worries
Good.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'd rather have you answer questions
Yeah.
rather than read. Are we all good with that? So do we have any discussion? The motion is made, excuse me. May I have a second? Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Come to the microphone, sir.
Hello, my name is Lou Napoli, and I am 51 Jetwood Street, North Andover.
Welcome.
Welcome. I am the chairman of the Conservation Commission, and I would urge the residents of North Andover to approve this article, particularly the Glenny Woodland land, because it is part of the watershed in North Andover, and it ties into the town farm, and it's a piece that surrounds the lake that we really could use, and we're trying to protect the lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion?
Larry Allen, 3 Belmont Street. What am my question is,
To the microphone, sir.
what are we spending money on the cemetery for? It's the second largest item in this contract, and this article, Ridgewood Cemetery, over $300,000. What needs to be done in the cemetery?
Yes, if I may, Ridgewood Cemetery this is not the first project that the town has funded for Ridgewood Cemetery. Ridgewood Cemetery is a very historical property with old gravestones. It actually now is on the National Register of Historical Places, and a number of years ago, we did a long-term study in conjunction with the cemetery board about what their needs were for the long term. One of the things that you may not be aware of is every community in the state is required to provide some sort of cemetery and burial services. North Andover does not have a town cemetery, and Wedgewood actually acts as functionally equivalent of that. So this is money that we've spent over the years. If you've been on Memorial Day in town for the celebration there, you'll know that was one of the areas that we've refurbished in the past, and this is a continuing part of that program.
So, what are you spending this on? What are we spending?
To the
this on?
moderator, please. Query to the moderator.
What are we spending this on specifically?
What specific usage
Yeah,
will the
just,
dollars?
What are we paying salaries, or what are we doing?
We'll try to get an answer for that.
Well, I mean, well, let me explain generally. For example, one year, the town funded the restoration of the entryway. There's the beautiful plaques in the entryway. If you also notice that over the years, the things that we funded are to improve the walkway, the cobblestone paths, the gravestones, improving and enhancing the gravestones. It's really restoring the historical landscape of the entire property, according to a plan. Yeah.
I think for the benefit of the group, I think the gentleman who's inquiring, what is this specific appropriation going to be used for, do you know?
Well, this specific appropriation is really to restore external perimeter of the property, conserve the historical landscape in one section, the Grove section, and enhance the Marble Ridge Road landscape. So,
Thank you, I appreciate the on-point answer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, a majority vote is required on this article. All those in favor of the motion as presented by Mr. Simon and displayed on the screen, please signify by saying aye.
aye.
Those opposed? It is a unanimous vote. Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Article 13 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
A motion is made and seconded. We apparently have recommendations from the Board of Selectmen,
Board of Selectmen recommends favorable action.
and the Finance Committee has done the same.
We recommend favorable action.
Have we any questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I declare it a majority vote. Article 14.
Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Article 14 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on screen.
Motion is made. May I hear a second? Second. And seconded. Let's do an explainer first.
The revolving funds are traditionally money that's come in from use and is spent, and it's just maintained time and time again. Money comes in, it's spent. It's a revolving fund. I don't think there's much more. It's an annual thing.
And we have a Board of Selectmen recommendation,
Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action.
and the Finance Committee, I assume, has done so as well.
We recommend favorable action.
Is there a discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It is a unanimous vote. Article 15. Not often that we get to spend $100 million or more. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move to adopt Article 15 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
A motion is made and seconded. Do we have a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen
Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action.
and from the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends favorable action.
And I suspect that we have a few minutes of discussion about this matter. So our interim town manager and superintendent of schools will be spending 10 or 12 minutes reviewing our $100+ million budget.
Okay. So the budget development starts in September with the Board of Selectmen and the town manager. They have their strategic planning, got to flip the screen. Got to do two things at once here. From here, there are many meetings between the Board of Selectmen, Town Manager, School Committee, Superintendent, Finance Committee, and other boards to discuss and prioritize the budget initiatives and to produce the budget that is in front of you today. The FY20 budget totals $101,420,806, which is an increase of 4.3% or $4.2 million over FY19. The school budget has an increase of 3.75% this year, along with a one-time recommendation to fund an additional $120,000 for special education programs. The balance of the budget is divided among other categories such as general government, police, fire, public works, and other municipal departments, and those departments having an increase of approximately 3%. Employee benefits is recommended to be funded at $19,487,695, and it's an increase of $1.3 million over FY19. Health insurance increase of this is 7%, and retirement benefits are at 9.6%. We have an annual request to transfer funds to reserves, which has helped contribute to the town having their AAA bond rating. If you recall, back in 2005, our reserves were only at 0.6%. Today, our reserves are approximately 15%. In front of you is the pie chart on the revenues. As you can see, our largest revenue source is property taxes, which is 74.24% of the total revenue. The second largest is state aid at 11.23%, and local receipts at 10.59%, and some additional smaller categories for transfers and debt exclusion and free cash. The expense pie chart in front of you illustrates the percentage change in expense budgets. As you see, education is at 50.94%, with the second largest share of the budget going to employee benefits, which is 19.31%, and the balance divided up among all the other departments. And I'll introduce Superintendent Gilligan.
Thank you, Lynn. Dr. Greg Gilligan, Superintendent of Schools. I'm really honored to be in front of you here tonight. And before I start, I would like to say that the collaboration and cooperation on the school side with the town side, particularly, I know he's got a lot of kudos tonight, but is Andrew Mela still here? He may not be. He played a critical role early on in this development so that we could make strides to achieve our goals set out within the strategic plan. That's a focus on professional practice, creating a consistent and rigorous curriculum, and meeting the needs of all students. I'd also like to say that the interim town manager, Lynn Savage, has been wonderful and picked up those meetings, hasn't missed a beat. So in terms of the school budget, it's an increase this year of 0.76, up from last year. And if we go to the next slide. Oh, okay, thank you. And the goals are really in line with the school committee objectives, what the district leadership team looked at as priorities, particularly based on information from my entry survey where I met with over 1,136 people in person or survey. And our goal is to continue to reduce class size at the elementary level. Last year we were 17% over the recommended guidelines that we set forth. This year's budget will get us down to 11.3. Provide extended course offerings at the high school, such as AP Chemistry, English language learners, and support for students whose English is not their first language and need that additional support. Before and after school programming for at-risk students at the middle school in terms of a stipend. Finalize the leadership position at the Ann Bradstreet Early Childhood Center. As you know, we had co-leadership there, and we finalized just recently a permanent campus principal with the hiring of Dr. Tiffany Goddard, and we're thrilled that she will now be the principal starting next September at the Bradstreet School, and also provide funding for the reaccreditation process at North Andover High School, commonly known as the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. They accredit every college and high school, pretty much all New England. And one more slide, this is pretty fancy here. And here's the breakdown. So we're looking to add 5.7 positions. North Andover High School, with their size, we needed an additional nurse. When we looked at adding the additional teachers at the elementary to continue to reduce class size, that would be 3 positions. We looked at also, excuse me, I'm taking a look here. I'm on New Progressives. Reading teacher, thank you. Reading teacher. Sorry, I just got new progressive glasses yesterday. I've been wearing them. There's 3 zones, I guess.
Dr. Gilligan, let's just admit it's old age. It's okay.
It really is. There's nothing more critical than targeted intervention, particularly at the elementary level. We've added a 1.0 high school teacher, particularly to cover a couple areas, but if a student gets into AP chemistry, we should be able to have that student be able to take AP chemistry and not have a lottery because we don't have enough teachers to offer the section, so we'll have that addition. We're looking to add 12 hours a week to that English language learner support. Many people are surprised to know that we have over 30 different languages spoken in our school system here in North Andover. And last but not least, a few final things on the list is the before and after school program at the middle school. It's small money, but makes a huge difference in the lives of students at the middle school. The ABECC principal, as I mentioned, and last but not least, the high school is going through its annual 10-year reaccreditation. And that makes up the portion of the school budget.
Okay. And to follow up, the enterprise fund budgets, this year, the 3 budgets are totaled $11,070,153,000. As displayed on the screen, the breakdown between water, sewer, and enterprise funds. Water is at $5,475,643. Sewer is $5,098,130, and Stevens Estate at $496,380. And this is the pie chart that breaks down the percentage by category and total for all 3 together, with the largest percentage being the GLSD and the other breakdowns as displayed. Do we have the article back up there? Chris, do we have the article for the budget? Is that it? Okay, there we go. Good.
Thank you both for an efficient presentation. We have the chair of the Finance Committee who's going to be making commentary.
Before I begin, my name is Tim Shearhart. I live at 283 Campbell Road. I do not wear progressive lenses. I don't need them. And I felt you should know who I am since I was saying favorable actions on behalf of the Finance Committee. Basic overview of who the Finance Committee is. We're 9 members. Currently, we only have 8 on the team right now, but we're a very diverse group. We have CPA, we have investment people, we have sales people, we have people in real estate, we have a good mix of gender. We got active citizens who are more active than just on the Finance Committee. We've got a well-rounded committee, and one of the things that I've come away with after several years on this on the committee is that there really isn't any significant agendas other than to do the best for you. We consider any matter that may have short-term or long-term fiscal impact. We communicate with town boards, departments, employees, and members of the public, and we report back to you. How do we execute? We don't set policy. Board of Selectmen do, the school committee does. We do help set the stage by assisting with the revenue and fixed cost forecasts. We sort of set the boundaries with the support of the finance director. And it's well done, it's conservative. We look at the numbers that support short-term and long-term goals. We look for sound investments, nothing stupid. We help to protect the financial strength of the town through our good days and in particular when bad days occur. Those are your reserves. In summary, you've got $103.4 million of sound town operating revenue, sound town operating expenses, reserves, and assessments. It's a 4.2% increase over the prior year. Capital improvements, Lynn has already discussed, 5.9 million, down 41% compared to the prior year, primarily due to the senior center being part of last year's capital improvement plan. And again, as Lynn has mentioned earlier, the enterprise funds coming in 11.1 million, a 2.8% increase over prior year. What do we find? First of all, congratulations and compliments rather to the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, all the managers and department heads of the town. Complete transparency. When we asked questions, they provided answers. When we needed some clarification, either through emails or one-on-one participation, we got it. And we never, ever got a no from anyone from those organizations. One of the great things, a consensus budget was achieved over a period of several months. Engaged and proud stakeholders, we found them who feel the departments are supported by the budget allocations. Please note, the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, that is not something easily achieved by our towns, and that is a huge tribute to our finance director and the leadership she provides to our annual budget. And we did find that the budget meets the stated goals. Looking forward and beyond 2020, the OPEB, that is the other pension, other than pension employee benefits, primarily healthcare costs that we've been talking about last handful of years, huge liability, but the town is, the Board of Selectmen put together a committee, is still an active working committee, but is working positively to minimizing the risk associated with that. School buildings in the future, there's no way of getting around that. We're going to have to look to find a way to improve such schools as our middle school. Our pension costs are growing faster at a faster rate than our revenue grows. Nothing of concern right now, but to let you know, it's 12% this past year. Our revenue grows at roughly 4%. It's fine for now, but the pension seems to be growing at a pace faster. And something that's come up recently in the news, and that's the Merrimack Valley, Merrimack River sewage issues, where the multiple towns have been dumping waste into the Merrimack Valley through when they have too much rain. They can't handle it. Someday soon, we anticipate that the federal government or the state government will come down hard and ask the Merrimack Valley to fix that problem. What do we find? The Finance Committee believes that the town of North Andover's fiscal year 20 revenue projections and planned operating and capital budgets to be sound and recommend approval by the citizens of North Andover at town meeting. We are impressed with the professionalism of the town management team and the passion and dedication of all. And a special shout out and thank you to all of you for having trust in us, this Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the members of the Finance Committee. Now your opportunity. Have we any questions or discussion? We blithely spend $100 million without question or discussion? Full confidence in everybody standing back here? I'm delighted to hear it. I'll give it another beat. Hearing no discussion, a majority vote is required on the town budget. All those in favor of the motion as provided, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? I hear an overwhelming majority yes. It's the budget, so passes. Articles 16, 17, and 18. Please.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move to adopt Articles 16, 17, and 18 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
We have a query apparently from the remote question team.
Mr. Moderator, I'm Caroline Cole. I'm with the remote question team. This has come in from Joe Mazza, 6 Francis Street. He is asking if someone could explain, Article 17, why do we have to have a separate account, the sewer enterprise account, the appropriation, why do we have to pay it? Can someone explain why it's outside the budget?
Fair question. Thank you very much, Mr. Mazza. Let me do some housekeeping before we get to a specific answer on that. So Articles 16, 17, and 18 are what we consider a consent agenda. Again, generally something over the last 7 years that we've wrapped into a single article because they're all similar in nature. but the question relative to 17 applies to all. And I'm going to ask, the question is, why do we have to have such an enterprise account, most particularly around the sewer enterprise account?
We keep the enterprise funds separately between water and sewer so we can track the expenditures individually. These were voted as enterprise funds a long time ago. We have separate fees for water versus sewer, and we need to keep them separate so we can make sure that everything is tracking properly.
Anybody have anything else they wish to add to that?
Only I have to echo what Lynn said. Each fund stands by itself, meaning that the revenues or the sources of funds come in to pay for those expenses. So sewer pays for its own sewer expenses, and that's the whole purpose of the enterprise fund, period.
Are we clear on the questions in front of us? Is there any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, a majority vote being required. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. It is a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Article 19, transfer to stabilization.
Mr. Moderator, I
Yes,
move
sir.
to adopt Article 19 as printed in the warrant and is displayed on the screen.
The motion is made
Second.
and seconded. Thank you. Let's have an explainer.
This article seeks to move funds from the town's savings account into the stabilization fund. We're looking to move $237,525 to the stabilization fund, and that is basically, the fund's whole purpose is just in case our revenue forecast does not meet expectation, and these funds are there to help stabilize any potential shortfall, so we don't have to dig into operating expenses and cut cost.
I believe that the Board of Selectmen has considered the matter,
Yes, the Board of Selectmen recommends favorable action.
and we know that the Finance Committee has favorable action as the makers of the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, majority vote being required. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. I declare it a unanimous vote. Article 20, another transfer. Mr. Shearhart.
I move to adopt Article 20 as printed in the warrant and is displayed on the screen.
The motion is made
Second.
and seconded. Can we have an explainer, please?
Again, this is a form of reserve to help in situations where funds are not, we find that the situation, we need to buy something capital and the funds aren't there readily available. The stabilization fund is there to help that out. So it's a nice reserve.
And to repeat what the Finance Director Chairman said, we also, this fund helps to build additional funds into a specific account. If we have a project out in the outer years, maybe 5, 6 years out, we start building the stabilization fund so that we can fund that 100% without doing any borrowing.
So Article 20 has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. I declare it a unanimous vote. Article 21.
I move to adopt Article 21 as printed in the warrant and is displayed on the screen.
Second.
Thank you very much. And an explainer?
This article moves $588,257 from free cash in fiscal year 20 to the Special Education Stabilization Fund, fully funding it at its reserve level of $750,000.
And the Board of Selectmen have considered the question?
Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Article 21 is unanimous vote. Article 22.
I move to adopt Article 22 as printed in the warrant and is displayed on the screen.
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. An explainer?
Again, what this has to do with our other, sir, other than pension employment benefits, primarily healthcare. And what this article does is it'll move $1.2 million from our current health insurance trust fund into the OPEB liability trust fund. That particular trust fund, by law, actually can earn a little bit more money than otherwise. So it is it's working towards our favorable, trying to help fund towards a long-term debt that we've got with the OPEB.
Board of Selectmen have a recommendation.
Board of Selectmen recommends favorable action.
We know the Finance Committee's recommendation. Is there any discussion?
Gerald Brecker, 488 Pleasant Street.
Welcome.
So thank you, Mr. Moderator. So this relates to the item that was discussed and noted by the chairman of the Finance Committee at the time of the budget discussion, which having to do with public employee pensions, as not yet a problem, but soon to perhaps become a serious problem. So we already have a serious problem with this long-term health insurance and the costs that we bear by promising to pay people 100%, whatever we pay for former town employees for the rest of their lives and their dependents. And pensions that we're offering to people that are far in excess of what private enterprise offers its employees and are in different formats, guaranteed payments as opposed to contributions, et cetera. And I'm wondering, since you read all the time about other municipalities and states around the country being drowned by pension and OPEB costs, what is the town doing to look ahead as to changing our ways of doing business so that eventually this problem, which may exist for people who we've hired in the past, is not repeated as the town grows? The town is growing. The budget is, I believe, tripled in the time that I've lived here, almost 30 years. And we keep hiring more people, which is great. We get more services. The town seems to be run in a way that meets the needs of the people. But if it contains a poison pill, namely these obligations that we're undertaking, perhaps we need to rethink what exactly we're offering to potential town employees in the future, whether it's really necessary to provide these gold-plated benefits in order to attract the kind of people that we do, and perhaps we should pay more in salary and less in future benefits that our children and our children's children won't be paying off in their lifetime. So I urge the town officials to pay much more attention to this than they are. We can't keep handing out these benefits because, as we've been told by our very conservative stewards of our money, it's going to come back and bite us. And I think we need to pay much more attention than we are today. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Excuse me, Mr. Brecker poses a policy question, and does anybody wish to help inform the meeting?
I would like to address this.
Mrs. Smedili.
Rosemary Smedili, 65 Green Street, member of the Board of Selectmen. I introduced to the board, and it was adopted, that, and also I believe the Finance Committee has adopted, and part of our OPED has looked at going forward, any new hires, they are to do an analysis on what that new hire would cost the town in future potential benefits. At least it's putting a spotlight on these costs and how much we really need that new position. So it's not an answer, but I would suggest at least it's a beginning to take a hard look at how much do we really need that new position in town. So, and again, it's something that's been accepted and adopted as somewhat of a policy position.
I think we have a little more commentary. People want to contribute to the discussion. Mr. Nobley.
I appreciate it. Chris Nobley, 317 Hillside Road. I'm actually the chair of the OPEB committee, and to the request about the attention and the care of this issue, there's been a committee that's worked diligently, and we are very close to having a presentation, which we hope to have in front of the Board of Selectmen and really for the townsfolk to see. I'm really impressed by the work that these folks did. There are folks at Town Hall, there are citizens that really spent a lot of time, a lot of research on how to address this as a long-term process. And I would just say to you, stay tuned. I think you'll see a presentation and documentation that really addresses this concern, and I think potentially puts us in a very superior position to other communities here in Massachusetts. So your community is working on this.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to inform the matter?
A real quick statement.
Please.
As an active member of the Finance Committee on the OPEB committee, I have to agree with everything that Chris has said. The solution to the OPEB isn't a single approach of going out there and spending $1 on a lottery ticket hoping you'll gain $110 million. I did put forth that proposal once, but that's not very nice. But what they have done as a committee, what we have done as a committee, is proactively looked at different angles and different approaches to addressing both hiring, the cost of health care, how to put together some better reserves, multiple things, how to look at new hires. So I'm excited by its outcome, and again, stay tuned.
Have we any other discussion? No other discussion. We'll move back to the matter. All those in favor of the motion as made in Article 22, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you for the discussion. Article 23. Mr. Jakes,
Mr. Moderator,
please introduce yourself and your address, sir.
my name is Paul Jacques. I reside at 150 Waverly Road, North Andover.
Welcome, sir.
I make the motion as...
One moment. We want to make sure everybody can hear you.
Okay. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. I make the motion as appears on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second? The motion is made and seconded. Sir, you have, if you could start the clock at 3 minutes again, your opportunity to detail that which you wish.
Sure. My name is Paul Jacques. I stated I reside at 150 Waverly Road. I've been living in North Andover for the past 4 years now, going on 5 years. My family live here. I'm raising 4 kids, 2 boys that go to the middle school, and 2 young girls that go to the Early Child Ann Brett Street Early Childhood School Center. I'm asking everyone in this town today for consideration for an age exemption to become a police officer to serve this community that I love. If you guys can vote in favor, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion on the matter, I invite all those who concur to please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Sir, you've won a unanimous vote. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. That wasn't too painful, was it? Good for you. Thank you. Article 24, another citizen's petition. Sir?
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. John Smolak, residing at 711 Dale Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. Also serving as attorney for Messina Development, the developer of the Wellington Woods project and the Wellington Way subdivision.
May we have a motion, please?
I'd like to move to adopt Article 24 as printed in the warrant and displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second? Second. All those, excuse me, motion is made in second. Discussion, and give the gentleman 3 minutes, please.
Sure. Sure. Mr. Moderator, Wellington Way is a subdivision roadway located off of Boxford Street. The roadway was part of a 7-lot subdivision approved by the Planning Board back in 2015. All 7 lots in the project have been developed and sold. Conservation restriction was also imposed on approximately 11.5 acres of that property to be permanently protected as open space under the direction of the Conservation Commission. All work required by the town as a precondition to acceptance of the roadway has been completed, and it's always been the intention of the developer of this project to have the town accept this roadway as a public way. And for these reasons, we're requesting the town's action to accept this roadway.
Thank you. It's my understanding that there's been review by the planning board. Is there a recommendation?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the planning board recommends favorable action.
The planning board recommends favorably, and the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommends favorable action.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, a majority vote being required. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion 2 passes unanimously. Congratulations to the residents of Wellington. Article 25.
Mr. Moderator, Bill Callahan, 23 Lyman Road.
Do I
North
have a
Andover.
motion?
I move to pass the motion as displayed on the screen.
A motion is made. Is there a second to the motion? Motion is made and seconded. The gentleman has 3 minutes.
Good evening. This article is an addition to the town charter, which requires general court approval. It adds to the list of qualifications for service in town government. It says that no person who is A, holding a position in the town, and B, being paid for that position, can simultaneously serve an elected town office. It will go into the town charter. If you could move to the next slide briefly. In section 6 with other qualifications. If you could go back to the motion. This article promotes good government. A vote in favor of this article will ensure that our elected officials have fewer conflicts of interest. It will not limit the ability of retired employees to serve in elected office, nor active employees to serve in a voluntary capacity, nor for active employees to provide advice, testimony, etc. to town boards and committees. It recognizes that being a town employee and a town elected official would not provide our citizens with the conflict-free representation they deserve. Our town is large and diverse enough to field candidates for office who do not have the conflicts of interest that come with working for the town. If a town employee were elected, they would need to recuse themselves from significant oversight and participation with matters involving their department. This would mean that the boards would not be working at full strength on these issues. The town also participates in pattern bargaining, whereby the wage increase for one bargaining unit sets the basis for other contracts. By participation in one negotiation, a member could be setting the bar for all contracts, including ones from which they would need to be recused. State law already bars employees of the school department from service on school committees. Many other towns either have this provision in their charter or in the process of adding it. One illustration of why this is an important qualification to add to our town charter is to prevent a situation similar to the one that the city of Methuen faced last year. Their city council approved a contract with the superior officers of the police department that was slated to raise salaries 183%, requiring the council to appropriate extra funds mid-year to the police budget and finds the city facing an FBI investigation. It was found that a number of the councilors were later hired by the police department or had direct conflicts of interest in negotiating that contract. I ask that you join me to take this simple step for good government. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other discussion? So I understand that the Board of Selectmen have a recommendation.
Yes, the Board of Selectmen recommends favorable action.
Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion? Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tim Seibert, 40 West Broad Street Road.
Welcome.
My wife works for the town. She's not running for office, but I just thought I'd say it.
Thank you for
I'm
that.
against this. I don't really see why we need this. We have a lot of mechanisms already that we can use to mitigate conflict of interest. We have open meeting laws. People can recuse themselves from decisions. If people don't recuse themselves, we can ask them to do so. And if they still don't, then we can appeal their decision in front of a judge. We also have free and fair elections in this town, and if we're concerned about a conflict of interest, then we don't need to vote for that person. We exercised this very well just about a year or two ago. There was a person that was a town employee running for Board of Selectmen. People were concerned about conflict of interest, and they didn't vote for him. I think that the bar for changing our town charter should be really, really high, and that we should be using it to fix a problem that is big and known and obvious to us. I've been watching, I appreciate what's going on in Methuen, okay, but I've been watching our town for the last 15 years. I don't see a lot of conflict of interest. So I think that this is basically a solution for a problem that we don't really have. Why, after a couple hundred years, at this point in time, we need to do this, I don't get it. I also am concerned because despite what I heard over there, I think we need more people running for office. We had an election about 2 months ago. Both seats were run unopposed. Why we're taking this step right now to deliberately shrink the pool of eligible candidates, I think is a mistake. I also think that while it might be very obvious, for example, if you are a teacher and you are running for school committee, okay, that's very clear, we can see that. I guess it's obviously against the law. But if you're shelving books at the library, now you can't be on the Board of Selectmen. If you're sweeping the floors in the fire department, now you can't be on the school committee. I think that's a mistake. I think it's undemocratic. We've had this in our system for a very long time. It's worked very well. Why we need to change it right now, I don't get it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Further conversation?
Dan Moran, 12 Spruce Street.
Welcome.
I agree with the last speaker. I'm not going to repeat what he just said because I was going to say the same thing, so I won't repeat what he said. But I see no need for us not to permit a person in town that's a taxpayer not to participate on any board that they wish to participate. Again, they have to go, they have to vote. We vote them in, we vote everyone in that's up there. They have to excuse themselves. It's no different than if you elect a selectman and they've got family members in the school committee. So why don't we ban that too? Because if they've got family members in the police department, which is what's happened in Methuen, or fire department or school thing, what's the difference between that and what you're, not letting an employee participate on the Board of Selectmen or another board? It doesn't make any sense to me. And as the other gentleman said, we've been doing this for 100 years, and anybody that's been an employee of town has excused themselves. Anyone that has a family member has excused themselves on that issue in the past, and the voters have voted for them or voted them out. Thank you. Please vote no.
Thank you very much, sir.
My name is Michael Liss, 30 Leanne Drive, and I'm here to support the proposed article. It's a relatively straightforward argument. I understand that there are other places that there could be conflicts of interest, but this feels like a relatively straightforward one to control. And I'm not concerned about the complaint that this is undemocratic, because we are in a direct democracy room legislating this right now. I feel that if this room decides that we don't want folks who are employed by the town to represent us, then that is perfectly democratic, and I don't see any problem with that. Furthermore, the concern that we have, the concern that that people can adjust as we go. If we have too many people with conflicts of interest, we can run into situations where, like they had in Methuen, where they had so many people that needed to recuse themselves that they had to bypass the laws of recusal in order to actually have a quorum to vote on their budget. And that is a situation that I don't want us in, and it is not one that we should be asking people to consider when they are voting for a specific candidate. We should be able to decide this right now as a matter of principle. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Karen Blake, 15 Caroline Way.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to start with a little story about a very small town that had 3 selectmen, and one of them was an employee of the dump. And what we found in that particular town, and I was domiciled there for a while, was that about every other meeting, the garbage department employee, had to recuse himself, which set up this dynamic, that the other two had to act on town business. And if they had a disagreement, then we had a deadlock. And we also had difficulty when one of the other selectmen was sick. And we had this conflict because not only was it the garbage man's contract that would come up, all the other parts and pieces of town government somehow are connected and affected by his acting on various town matters. So we were basically hamstrung. I have to tell you, we were hamstrung. Now here is a little thing that we have in our bylaws here in Massachusetts, here in North Andover, and that is that a contract is void if it is the product of decisions made under contract, under conflict of interest. So if you've got people acting who have conflicts of interest and they're not disclosed, but they're acting, that contract is void. So really, what we're having, or could have, is a bunch of void contracts kicking around the town that nobody knows they're void if somebody doesn't recognize that they've got a conflict of interest. Sometimes conflicts are not really apparent to people. And I'll tell you something else. This town has got 12 collective bargaining agreements, 12 of them. 7 of them are on the municipal side, and 5 are on the school side. These contracts come up for renewal and for renegotiation every 3 years, which means that people are constantly negotiating these, constant negotiation. Who is it, under these circumstances, who is going to find on the Board of Selectmen at any particular time that they're going to have to recuse themselves, or on the school board? It's a recipe, I think, for difficulties going forward, especially with these contracts. So I would urge.
Let me ask you to wrap.
Excuse me.
Let me ask you to wrap. Final words.
I would urge that you vote for this petition, this amendment.
Thank you very much.
Corinne Roten, 13 Perry Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. I think, first of all, we are a town, not a city. This is North Andover, not Methuen. We have much different challenges that are people that we have entrusted this town to deal with. I think it is a mistake to penalize anybody because of who they work for, or what their job description is, to make it so that they cannot volunteer to serve their town. It will cut out so many people who are qualified and ready to serve and already understand what serving the town is. I would also say that all of our Board of Selectmen and school committee members are already paid, as we just recently voted for, by the town, effectively making them town employees. I would urge everyone to vote no for this article.
Further discussion?
Hi, my name is Hillary Stestonis. I live at 15 and 14 Salem Street. I am an employee of the town. I work part-time for the school department. I would vote, or I would urge you to vote in favor of this. I'm sure my husband and other people would wish I'd run for public office, so I really want you to vote in favor of this. But actually, I think that it makes good sense. Some other speakers have said, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But as we could see with many of the other articles we voted unanimously on, a lot of the things we vote for are housekeeping matters. We try to get ahead of the problems that we foresee in the future. So I think this is good to set us up for success in the future. The other thing is that we do have mechanisms for people to recuse themselves, but if you have to do that 12, 20, 62 times, are you really a full-time elected official? Are you a part-time official? So I think we owe it to ourselves to be able to have someone that we vote into office who can vote on every single measure before their board. And lastly is that even if you are only part-time, like myself, I work 8 hours a week, just being on the town rolls does mean you might have access to information or conversations that might affect your ability to serve in an unbiased manner. It's not just who pays you, but I think it's important that we have a huge town with lots of qualified citizens, and there's more than enough people in town that could run for office that are not employed by the town. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name's James Baldock, 521 Salem Street. I moved here in December. Love the town.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. My question, I'm curious why the Board of Selectmen are recommending favorable action, and I'm also curious, is there anyone currently in conflict with the proposed measure right now?
Fair question. The selectmen are invited to answer if they wish.
I think I won't speak for the board, but me personally, I look at what's happening in Methuen, and I don't want us to be in a position like that. I also agree with what one of the other people have said, which is if you have to recuse yourself on a regular basis, you are not an active full-time member. And lastly, I agree with another thing someone said, which is you might recuse yourself of something that's personally, that you are personally involved with, but not the next item, but that next item influences your item. That's not easy to say, but you could have influence over something that's ultimately going to have an influence on you, but not that particular item. So I feel it's safer, and there's lots of qualified people that can run for these positions.
We have others who wish to comment from the board.
I have a unique position in that
Your name,
feel,
sir?
my name is Phil DiCollegiero, member of the Board of Selectmen, 75 Meadow Lane. It's not a problem until it's a problem. And so I think that Ms. Sasonis worded it best when she said, let's get in front of something before it becomes a problem, because there are many communities that have this as a prohibition, many others that don't, and those that don't are currently looking at whether or not, many, not all of them, are looking at whether or not there is potential for a similar situation as is happening in neighboring communities to happen there. So I voted in support of this.
Richard Valancourt, Board of Selectmen. I do agree with the petitioner and everything that my colleagues have said so far. I would like to clarify one thing. I think one of the speakers said that this would prevent people from volunteering from boards. I don't believe that's the case. I believe it's only for elected boards. I think volunteers would still be, town employees would still be eligible to volunteer on various boards. So just want to make that clarification.
I think the other thing that strikes me beyond these comments is basically the balance. If you are precluding anybody who works in schools from being on a school committee, then either open it up and let everybody, or no one is employed by the municipality. And I think there's a balance here that is identified in schools, and I think that gives light as to why communities take this approach for municipal employees, because it's the same, I think, broad brush and connectivity, which I think Chairman Keene was trying to identify, which is, it is amazing how pieces are connected, and that complexity, we avoid that issue with this. So that's the reason why I supported it.
Mr. Moderator, actually, I have a couple of questions and a comment. I don't know if you
Please.
prefer an order. The first question is, would this apply to part-time employees or poll workers? And the second question is, can they run and then resign if they win their seat or stay in their municipal position? And my comment is this: I actually did speak to one of the previous speakers, and it did enlighten me somewhat. So my position is somewhat changed in the fact that, for a number of reasons, but I've worked with people who have served. They did have to recuse themselves on a couple of occasions. There are other mechanisms if they do not recuse themselves through the Ethics Commission and a variety of other ways. But then I started to think about the fact that I think we need to take it very seriously when we as a body decide to take away somebody's rights to run for office. The voters are pretty smart. If they feel as though that person cannot make the right decision or recuse themselves, or they just don't like it, they don't vote for them. But to tell a fellow citizen that you do not have the right to run for office, especially if you're a part-time employee. One of the speakers, when they spoke earlier, that their spouse works part-time. And I know this person, and she's a pretty smart person, and I think it's kind of a little troubling that person, if wanted to, couldn't run for the Board of Selectmen. So I've evolved a little bit on this decision, and not quite the same vote that I took with the board.
Thank you. Let me help as an impartial source relative to a couple of the questions that were raised. The motion as made, Ms. Smedili, does not connote a differentiation between full-time or part-time. It only relates to compensation. So that would be guide number one. And to our new neighbor, there is no current elected official who would be affected by this proposal as suggested. And do we have any other discussion? Please. I'm sorry.
Terry Blake.
Is this in relation to
It
a
is.
specific question?
It is in
Please.
relationship to what Selectman Smedili just was speaking about. Actually, people can run. You run and you can get elected, and then you have a choice. If you're on a policeman or a fire department or in the library, you can run and get elected to a board, but then you have a choice. You either have to give up your job or you have to give up your seat. So technically, you can run.
Thank you. Any other commentary about the questions that are on the table? None? Okay, we'll go here.
Hi, my name is Hillary Alden. I live at 23 Kingston Street.
Welcome.
I am a town employee. I work part-time at the library. I'm in favor of this position, of this article, because based on the state laws, there is already this restriction for school committee, so this will only really be affecting the 5 seats on Board of Selectmen. And we have ample other opportunities to volunteer to serve the town through Finance Committee or Planning Board or the other committees throughout town, like Cultural Commission, etc. So I think that there's still, for somebody who wants to serve and volunteer with the town, there's still a lot of opportunity. And looking at Methuen, it is a little nerve-wracking seeing how much trouble that municipality has had in the past year because of the conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Scott Donnelly, 120 Old Farm Road.
Welcome, sir.
I had a question on the impact of this article. We've mentioned full-time and part-time employees, but would contractors or companies holding contracts with the town be impacted? And do we have information about the count of employees that would be affected by this?
That may require somebody to answer with a higher pay grade than me, but I'll ask the petitioner if he has an opinion first.
The way the petition is written is very specific. It's that you simultaneously hold a position in town. So a position means that you have a full-time employment contract with the town. So it would not involve a contractor. It's only someone who is actually in the employ of the town. The contractor is in the employ of somebody else who has a contracting service.
And do we know the count of employees impacted?
I'm sorry, please?
Do we know the count of employees, like how many employees would be
I'm
impacted?
sorry, you
by
need to repeat yourself.
Do we know how many employees would be impacted by this? Like, what is the count of town employees?
We know the number of town employees. I don't know an estimate as to those town employees who happen to be citizens.
I don't have that count right now. I wouldn't know exactly how many employees that actually work for us live in town, and it would only impact those. It wouldn't impact every employee. Because if you don't live in town, you can't run for a board.
Okay, but so we don't know the full impact of
Thank you. Yeah, that's correct. Other commentary? Sir.
Thank you. Frank McMillan, 143 Carterfield Road, Chair of the Board of Health, not speaking for the Board of Health.
would this affect a retired person? So a person who worked for the school department, retired. It says, what I'm really getting at is the language in here tight enough to submit it to the state to actually pass the way it's written? And maybe the town council may want to comment on that.
I think we had an answer to that from the petitioner in an earlier commentary about whether a retired individual could.
Yes, having a position is an active situation, and where you're paid from the town's treasury. Once you're retired, you're not paid from the town's treasury, you're paid from the retirement system.
From a third-party source. We have other commentary. Mr. Brecker, you've been waiting? Certainly. Sir.
Hi, my name is Alvino De Silveira. I live at 54 Long Pasture Road.
Welcome.
And I just wanted to clear up that this was, and someone who is an employee of the town can run, but they would have to leave their position if they were elected. And if I'm understanding that correctly, I'm just concerned as if they were elected and they did not give up their position, what would be the process going forward for things like that?
I'll try. If one were elected and was in conflict with this matter, then one would have the choice to either resign their position or resign their elected position. It would be the responsibility of town administration at that time, if in fact somebody were in specific conflict with a town charter circumstance, to then demand one or the other to take place. If that were not the case, then I would imagine somebody in a black robe would eventually make that decision. Mr. Brecker.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Gerald Brecker, 488 Pleasant Street. This is an interesting question about good governance. And I think I would feel more kindly toward it were it not being sponsored by an active partisan in the town, and if it were not being supported by members of the Board of Selectmen who were active in the very town that we're, our neighboring town that we're negative about the way that they operate.
Mr. Brecker, excuse me. Would you hold the gentleman's time? I caution you to be careful about the characterization of other people and their intentions.
I'm not discussing anyone's intentions. I'm just talking about facts, Mr. Moderator. Our Constitution prohibits bills of attainder, that is, laws that are directed at specific people. And in the 30 years that I've lived in this town, there's only been one elected official who worked for the town. So it leads to the natural conclusion that this particular article, now being raised after all these years, when it was never thought necessary before, is necessarily or most likely directed at a certain individual who was a town employee, is a town employee, and has run successfully and unsuccessfully for town office. So it gives me pause as to what's behind this, why it's being raised now, what are the politics of it. And so on balance, while I might, in a completely neutral situation, think, yeah, this may make sense, I would think that this is something that might require a little more thinking and fleshing out and perhaps further discussion at the Board of Selectmen level, and not be so quick to pass this tonight. I think that the notion that one of the previous speakers said, well, we can prohibit anybody from running and it's democratic because we're doing it here in this room. If we prohibited people with red hair from running, it would be democratic because we voted it here in this room. I'm not so sure we would agree with that. So I think that this smacks of attainder, and therefore, I don't think it's appropriate. And it hasn't been a problem in the entire time that I've lived in this town, and I doubt it's been a problem, except in our neighboring town, where there are people who had some responsibility for that, sitting and making judgments about it. So I'm concerned about this, and I would vote against this article. Thank you.
Thank you, and if you'll allow me to correct the record, there have been circumstances where several individuals, in my experience here in the community over these years, who have been town employees, who have been elected to other offices, in addition to, you seem to ascribe to a single gentleman. And then I'll also note that I'm thankful that there's no prohibition on people without hair from running for town election. Yes, thank you. Is there any other discussion on the matter? Hearing no discussion on the matter, considering that this is going to go to the legislature, I'm going to ask for a voice vote. I don't imagine that it will be unanimous, but I may be able to declare it as an easily discernible two-thirds vote. So all those in favor of the motion as provided, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? Okay, I'm going to go to a hand count right now, so I'd ask the counters to be prepared. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your pink with your banded red hand. Thank you all for your patience. Everybody, are we good on the count? Okay, so let's take a report from Section 1. Section 1. I don't know if we're Section 1 or Section 8. What does it say in front of us? We're number 1, of course. 15. 1. Thank you. 15, much appreciated. Section 2. 19. Section 3. 47. Section 4. 27. Section 5. 21. Section 6. 31. Section 7. Is that 2? That's the hallway? Okay, and there is no Section 8, correct, sir? Okay, so 160 voting in the affirmative. All those opposed, please raise your pink card and your banded hand. Are we ready, counters? Thank you all. The no votes, Section 1. 5. Section 2. 14. Section 3. 22. Section 4. 8. Section 5. 10. Section 6. 13. Section 7. 1. 3. The motion carries with 68% in the affirmative. Thank you all. We'll now move on to Article 26. Is there a motion on Article 26? I like your ride.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Michael Zanakis, 48 Waverly Road. I motion to adopt Article 26 as printed in the warrant and as on the screen.
The motion is made. Is there a second? Second. The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Do we have an explainer? Somebody wish to explain? Does anybody wish to discuss the matter other than what's explained? Okay. I'm sorry. Did somebody have a question? All right. I guess we'll move to a vote. This requires a 2/3 vote as well. I'll try a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Because this is going to the legislature, it too would appreciate having a hand-counted vote. So maybe I misheard. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? No. Okay, we'll go to a hand count. All those in favor, please raise your pink cards and your banded hand.
Come on.
Tellers, do we have everybody? Mr. Coco? Thank you very much, everybody. You can put it down. We'll call out the vote now. In the affirmative, Section 1. 16, Section 2. 27, Section 3. 44, Section 4. 27, Section 5. 25, Section 6. 22, Section 7. Is 6. With affirmative now, it's 6. Okay. A total of 161 in the affirmative. All those who are not in favor, please raise your pink card with your banded hand. Counters, are we ready? Section 1. 5. Section 2. 5. Section 3. 14. Section 4. 3. Section 5. 3. Section 6. 14. Section 7. Is 0. The motion passes in the affirmative. Congratulations, Mr. Zanakis, and congratulations to your partner and your cousin on his nuptials. Article 27.
Mr. Moderator, would move to adopt Article 27 as printed in the warrant and is displayed on the screen.
Thank you. The motion is made. That you mean somebody seconds, please? Second. And seconded. Mr. Goldberg, I'd invite you to come up and camp out for a little while. Yes, there was an over or under on the stage as to whether we would be finished by 9 o'clock. So those who voted that we would be finished by 9 o'clock have lost. I think.
Sorry, so no drinks on me. Sorry about that.
Explainer, please, sir.
Eitan Goldberg, Chair of the Planning Board, 57 Glenwood Street. Article 27, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of North Andover zoning bylaw. This is a parcel on Turnpike Street, 114. It's basically surrounded by business, so we're asked to change it from village residential to a business 2 district. This originally came to the planning board from an applicant who is going to be moving her dance studio to this location, and we think it's a better use than where it is now as a residential district and would be a perfect fit for the surrounding neighborhood there.
So do we have any discussion on Article 27? Please.
Good evening, Judy Ferris, 31 Oxbow Circle.
Welcome.
So I've had many concerns about the development that's been happening in this corridor of 114. We don't have the proper infrastructure to support the number of businesses, condos, apartments that are going in this area. If we vote to change the zoning law for this parcel of land, there is no guarantee that the dance studio would move to that property. I'm not quite sure what business 2 allows for, if it would allow for a drive-through restaurant, so to speak. So I'd like to understand what business 2 allows for, but again, there's no guarantee that the dance studio would actually move into that space. There's no guarantee that in 2 years, the dance studio wouldn't decide to move to another location in the town. We currently have the Girl Scouts that is vacant. We have the Prime gas station that is looking to increase the number of pumps by 50%. We have the other development at Sharpner's Pond in 114, that is still not fully rented. There's plenty of space in this town that's vacant that I think should be considered before we as a community vote to change a zoning bylaw. As our gentleman said earlier, before we make these changes, we should be really clear. It's a fairly significant change. When does it stop? This is one parcel of land. That's 1 acre, but there's plenty of other residential communities in that area, houses, and who knows, the next person might say, well, I'm just going to move, and then that's going to be another vote. We don't have the infrastructure. The planning board, the zoning board, they keep increasing the number of exits that are coming out to 114. There are traffic concerns. This piece of property is coming out right in front of Amberville Road. I don't live there, but on Colonial Road and 114, we face a lot of traffic issues coming in and out of our neighborhood. I can see that this will cause the same headaches for Amberville Road, so I hope somebody is here from that development to speak on this. But again, so I just urge my fellow residents to vote no on this article. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like the business 2 question answered.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
So the lady asked a question. Can we inform her in some way?
Whether it would allow for
What other
drive-through?
allowable uses there may be?
Well, I don't have the zoning table in front of me, but to answer the question as to which we might be able to put up, but as to a drive-through, no, not on. One of the articles that we'll talk about later is the corridor development district. I don't believe this has the acreage to allow for a drive-through. So I don't think so, no.
Please.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
My name is Richard O'Donnell, and my wife Jane and I actually are the ones that actually purchased the land. So
Sir, I need your address.
I'm sorry, 30 Sugarcane Lane in North Andover.
Thank you. Welcome,
Thank
and
you very
you
much.
have 3
Thank you.
minutes.
So my wife and I live, as I said, in 30 Sugarcane Lane in North Andover. We have been residents in the town for 37 years. Both of us actually own businesses in the town currently. My wife owns a dance studio, Center for Performing Arts, in North Andover. Happens to be located in the building right next door. So, I think the question about whether or not we'll put something else there, what else we could do with the building, that's not the goal. The goal is to build up the dance studio there. She currently has, I think, 7,500 square feet in the current building she's in right next door, and probably 300 students, predominantly from North Andover now. And those are local students to the town. I own a company called Footbridge. That's an IT consulting company that's based in Andover. I actually just cut the company in half, sold part of that company to my old partner, pulled my company over, and actually moved to High Street in North Andover back in December. And I think our goal is to really to invest in ourselves as opposed to investing, I guess, in paying other people rent. That's our goal, is to have a chance to build a facility for my wife and for I to build a building there. What we'd like to do is build a professional, small to medium-sized office building there that we could, hope that would complement the area around it, give us a chance to grow our businesses, and build something that we think would be, suitable to the town, suitable to the board, that you would approve what type of building can go there, what size building, and what would look best. Thank you.
Thank you. For the benefit of the prior person with a question, our crack team has put up what the allowable uses are as we scroll through. Are there any other commentary about this motion? Please, you may.
This is the boss.
Well, I'm Jane
The
O'Donnell.
boss needs to give her name and address as well.
Jane O'Donnell, 30 Sugarcane Lane. I've owned the dance studio for, this is our 18th year. And I've been renting at 1820 Turnpike, so I believe that any kind of effect on the infrastructure, it's going to be one driveway over, basically, what's already there. We definitely plan on trying to build whatever we can within the town, whatever the town allows. We really don't know exactly what we can put there, but we're willing to work with the town in any way so that we can invest in the neighborhood. It's really the only little teeny residential lot right in that area. Everything's been developed around it. Personally, I think it's more advantageous for us to just move both of our businesses there than to have another house or duplex and have more kids in school and more residents. We're already there. We're right next door. So we'd just like to move next door and build our own building. Thank you.
Please.
Judy Ferris, 31 Oxbow Circle, just as a point of follow-up. So I think I heard the gentleman state that they wouldn't just be putting the dance studio there would be other businesses there, which again go to my point where that whole corridor is already well-traveled on a 45-mile-an-hour road. You're going to have young people going in and out. And then the current dance studio is going to bring in another business. So it's going to have an impact. And again, without the proper infrastructure, I know that we want development, but something has to be done to be looking at the infrastructure for that area. We cannot continue to develop that area for a potential tax base and not look at proper lighting and structure. So again, it's only one business. I don't have anything against that family, and I appreciate their investment in North Andover. It's just, when is it gonna stop? And so again, thank you.
Thank you very much. Commentary?
My name is Jane Santis. I do live on Amberville, 200 Amberville Road.
Welcome.
I understand her issues and concerns, except telling someone that they have to have a house on that parcel at this point, after all that development surrounding it, is just absurd. So going forward, I agree with the issues she presented, but this parcel, there's just no reason why it shouldn't be commercial. It's surrounded, and nobody is going to want to live there, which I'm sure is why, you know, the current resident sold it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any final commentary? Race to the microphone. We've heard from you already, so please.
Leanne Patnod, 100 Salem Street.
Welcome, Leanne.
Thank you. My question is, what was it originally? What's the original designation?
Village residential.
Village residential. Well, clearly, like the woman who just spoke from Amberville, that, and me being a Girl Scout parent, I'm very familiar with that location. And in Girl Scout season, there's a lot of cars would go in and out of that location. So I think that
Thank you for my
the
thin
O'Donnells should be able to develop their property in line with what is in sync around them. That's all. I would vote in favor of.
Thank you very much. A final comment?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, thank you. Just to answer that question about
I'm
what...
sorry, we need for the record your name and address.
I'm sorry,
again.
Richard O'Donnell, 30 Sugarcane Lane. What I plan to put there, I have about 8 or 10 employees now in North Andover. I don't see that office getting much bigger, frankly. I have an office in Chicago that's a little bigger. I don't see this one, you know, blowing up and becoming a giant office. I know there's not that much space there anyway, so to answer that, you know, I don't see it becoming a big giant thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we final comments? Happy to keep the discussion going.
George Kaler, 41 Quail Run.
Welcome.
I'm sorry, but I just have to ask two questions. One, why was it chosen to rezone to B2 rather than either B4 or GB, which is what the adjacent lots are? And then if the motion is approved as it's written, so it becomes B2, isn't that spot zoning? That's a single lot that's getting zoned all by itself, different from its abutting lots.
I will ask somebody with more knowledge than me.
So as to the first question, because we wanted to make it actually more restrictive, we went with B2, and I believe some covenants were signed on this one excluding certain uses that we didn't feel were appropriate from B2. So there were some uses that we carved out, and they filed a covenant that they would not be used in the future, and that would run with the land. So anything that was of more intensive use, we said you can't do even if it's allowed by B2. They agreed that as part of this rezoning, that they would sign a covenant, which was done. And this was done in a couple of public hearings. In terms of spot zoning, again, that would be a legal determination, but I think that there is a public benefit to making this a commercial, regardless of whether it's B2 or GB or another. There's a public benefit of making this in line with the rest of the neighborhood, which would then make it not spot zoning, at least in my opinion, but I'm not a land court judge.
Phyllis Jones, 114 Autran Ave.
Welcome.
For full disclosure, I am Chair of the North Andover Commission on Ability Assistance. I am speaking as my own part, not as the Chair of the Commission. Both of my children are students at this school. The parking lot is extremely small, and I have seen what could possibly be, because of the way the parking lot is set up, accidents waiting to happen with cars and with children. If something like this is allowed, then quite possibly the structure could be set up with a parking lot that's actually safer. The question was risen about children driving, presumably 16, 17, 18-year-olds. This could actually, if set up properly with the Board of Selectmen, make it so that it's safer for these kids who are driving to dance school to be able to do it. Because the best way I can describe it is when you go into the parking lot, there is a gardened off area, and then you have an additional parking lot that has a couple of handicap spaces and closer-knit spaces. The parents going in and out of there to pick up their kids, there's a blind spot because of that gardening area, which, as I said, can become a disaster for an accident waiting to happen. With a larger space that is exclusively for the dance school or for both of the businesses, they can take into effect the fact that there are blind spots in this parking lot and actually make it safer for the children, their families, and other members who would go to the businesses and make it an easier place for people to come in and out of.
Thank you very much. Have we final commentary? Hearing none, I think we've discussed this. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify. I'm sorry, I should ask if the selectmen have a recommendation.
Yes, the Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action.
Thank you very much. Last word. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? I declare it a 2/3 vote. Article 28.
Mr. Moderator, I would move to adopt Article 28 as printed in the warrant and is displayed on the screen.
The motion is made. And seconded. Thank you very much. My conducting skills need to improve, I think. And I think we'll look for an explainer first, Mr. Goldberg.
Sure, short explanation. This was presented to us by the town administration, by the planning department, as a cleanup of the article regarding earth materials removal. And it's just basically, as I said, making that more in line with current practices and best practices. Came from the planning department. It's been pretty thoroughly vetted, and we think it's a
So we have
good
a
amendment.
motion. I'm sorry.
That's it.
Thank you. We have a motion. We know the planning board's opinion, and the Board of Selectmen have considered the question.
Yes, Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action.
Is there any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll move to the motion. It needs a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I declare it a unanimous vote. Article 29.
Mr. Moderator, I would make a motion to adopt Article 29 as printed in the warrant and as displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Thank you very much. An explainer?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this article also deals with Turnpike Street 114, proposes to amend the Corridor Development District, CDD1, and Corridor Development District, CDD2, to allow for a bank with a drive-through facility by special permit. It also reduces the dimensional and density criteria for minimum lot size, minimum frontage, and maximum building coverage in CDD2 to be consistent with the requirements of CDD1. These two districts are on either side of Route 114, not the whole way down, but a good portion of it. This came to the board originally as a proposal from the owners within this district at the corner of Hillside and Route 114. Their proposal was to rezone that parcel to allow for a drive-through bank as well as a drive-through coffee shop. In discussing it, we decided not to just rezone that district, or that particular parcel, but to make amendments in reviewing the whole districts as their entirety, and looking at the history over the last 10 years or so. Really hasn't exactly met the goals of the CDD2 because the lot sizes are too large to really do anything in particular. So what we did was we made them consistent on both sides of the street in terms of reducing dimensional requirements and frontage. And what this would allow is by special permits, so in the location that was requested on the corner of Hillside and 114 for a drive-through bank. It would not allow for a drive-through coffee shop. We didn't think that was appropriate. We thought that the use of a potential use of a bank, again, they'd have to come back with a special permit, do traffic studies, things like that, but the potential use of a drive-through bank would not be as impactful or really that impactful, but a drive-through coffee shop or restaurant would be too impactful for that area. So we thought that this was a appropriate recodification of this particular zoning area.
So we have a planning board opinion. Do the selectmen have an opinion?
Yes, the Board of Selectmen recommend favorable action.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I'm sorry, it requires a two-thirds vote. Let me listen again. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I declare a two-thirds vote. Thank you, sir. Article 30.
I would move to adopt Article 30 as printed in the warrant and is displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. Thank you very much. Let's have an explainer first.
Yes, so this amendment amends our sign bylaw. So we have a sign bylaw that dictates the types of sizes and locations of signs on property throughout the town. It's more of an older bylaw and has some language that has been pretty much overruled by Supreme Court precedent, which dealt with what type of, the content of the signs. You can't regulate signs by content. You can regulate the size and lighting and things like that. So this really just removed all of the language that had to do with regulation by content. And it was prepared for us by town council and then reviewed by the planning board. And it does not make any substantive changes to the bylaw, really just takes out parts that would probably be deemed unconstitutional.
Thank you. We know the planning board's opinion. The Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommends favorable action.
Thank you for the explainer. Any discussion? Hearing none, this also requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify.
Sorry.
She's very in favor.
Sorry.
I'm really saddened about what you're excited about. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It is a unanimous vote. Thank you. Article 31, I do have a request from somebody who said that we would get out at 10 o'clock, that all 39 pages of Article 31 be read aloud. So I don't think I'm going to allow that, but I will look for a motion from Mr. Goldberg.
Move to adopt Article 31 as printed in the warrant and is displayed on the screen.
The motion is made and seconded. An explainer, please.
Yes,
Much shorter than the 31 pages?
No, I don't think
38
that's
pages.
necessary. One clarification before I go into the explanation.
Oh, joy.
This does not have any bearing on the special town meeting called for June. This is an independent article and is unrelated to that. When we voted and considered this article, the project proposed for 1600 Osgood and the zoning amendments were not even on the table or apparent to us. So what this does is that we had looked at the 1600 Osgood and the overlay zoning that was present there, that's been there, adopted since 2007, that it really hasn't been fruitful or yielded any results, that it allows for 530 residential units. Nothing's really come of that, that the town has, that has really come of that, or that the town would really find appealing at this point. So we wanted to just take that away, bring it back to the original zoning, just the base industrial zoning. And so that's what this amendment would do. The special town meeting proposed now set for June would make some changes to that underlying zoning. The changes themselves are pretty simple, but it has nothing to do with this particular article. That's it.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, the planning board has made a judgment and the...
Board of Selectmen recommends favorable action.
Thank you. Are you as equally excited about
Yes,
this one?
I am.
Okay,
Very.
good.
More
All
excited
right.
about this one.
Oh, I'm delighted. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm sorry, please, don't want to stunt discussion.
George Kaler, 41 Quill Run. I'm sorry, another question. Does this mean
You'll
we no
never
longer,
be sorry about a question, sir.
does this mean we no longer, if this passes, does this mean we no longer have a 40R district or 40R? Does this do away with the 40R?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion or queries? Hearing none, this requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. I declare it a 2/3 vote. That, ladies and gentlemen, was our penultimate article. I want to thank you for your attention and participation this evening. We have one more to go. I wish to give particular thanks to the town clerk, her extraordinary staff, the volunteer tellers, the town IT director, Chris McClure, who's done yeoman's work, the North Andover Community Access Director, Brian Frazier, and his staff, to Dennis from the Music Factory, who allows us all to be heard and seen. I really appreciate the collective work that everyone has taken in order to have our very, I hope you believe, fair, open, and efficient town meeting that we've conducted this evening. I do invite you to come to the next town meeting, which we anticipate will be June 18th here on this site. And we have a final article now for dissolution. Chairman Keane.
Mr. Moderator, I move that this 2019 annual town meeting be dissolved.
The motion is made and seconded. I think we're all as equally excited about this one. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it is a unanimous vote. I thank you for your kind attention.